You're listening to the Certified Personal Trainer Podcast, a show by personal trainers for personal trainers. It's time to become a better trainer, get more clients, and change more lives.
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So, there is absolutely power in following up, and following up will refer to multiple, types of things, whether it's following up with a potential client. If you just met someone and you want to follow up with them via email or a phone call, or if you've sold to someone and they're your client and you're following up with them, right? There's different ways to follow up, but there's also different times in the process that you will want to follow up. Ultimately, y'all, following up in sales in any capacity helps also build trust, and we'll talk about that today. It shows your potential clients or your current clients or your past clients that you are putting time into them. You're willing to put in the time to understand their concerns or their goals or what they're needing to fix or what you're wanting to help them with, right? And you're proving your value in personal training, and you're giving them that effort and time and developing a relationship with them through that follow-up, y'all. So that's what we're going to really get into today. We say this a lot here at Fitness Mentors, but trial and error will absolutely be your friend in following up. I think a lot of trainers have certain ways that they follow up with all their clients. Some trainers are kind of like, yeah, I don't really have a process with it. I just kind of do what works organically and naturally for me, depending on the client and the client's needs or the way the client operates as well. But noticing how and which follow-ups work for you is super cool and important. So definitely focus on which ones work for you and which ones don't. And then also I just added at the end here, nurture your leads with useful follow-up. So a follow-up, and I really want to make this clear, a follow-up is not just referring to when you meet someone in the gym on the floor, or if you meet someone through Instagram DM. Yes, follow up with them, but that's not the only time this term follow-up is going to apply. You should keep your system in place for your follow-ups throughout your timeline with each of your clients. So even when they purchase, or let's say they stop their services with you for a little bit and it's been 6 months that you haven't trained this person, that's the perfect time to follow up with someone, right? So it's going to, following up with someone will refer to kind of different parts of that timeline. It's not just at the beginning. And we will get into that today. But as I said, ultimately following up truly helps also build trust, which is excellent for the client trainer relationship. Y'all, did you want to add anything in before we kind of move on here?
Yeah, I think with just as an overarching thought on following up, I think it's different for us compared to how it feels for like customers, because I think that it's like whenever we can feel weird about posting about the same thing very frequently, and we think that people are thinking about us more than they actually are, right? Or because that we thought about it, then everyone else seems to be thinking about it too. Or so like in terms of a follow-up, it's like you can feel like it feels salesy to follow up with somebody maybe in like 12 weeks or like a month or whatever it is since you've talked to them. But it's like they can read your message and then that's, a 2-minute part of their day, and then they're on to the next, and they don't think about you again like at all, right? And so a month later, whenever you show up, you can feel like, because you're tracking these people or something, or you're following up with them again, you feel like it's going to be a bigger deal than it actually is. So yeah, I think to keep that in mind and remember that you're not bothering people. Like the worst that's going to happen is just that they don't respond. And I think that, that's not that big of a deal. And I don't think you're, of course, there can be a limit to how much you can do this, but I think any reasonable person is not following up, every single day or something like that. I think putting yourself in the shoes of a consumer is very helpful in situations like this. So yeah, don't be afraid to follow up. Don't feel like you're annoying people, because there's a big chance that you're not, and that there's only potential upside usually. So, which we're going to get into.
I guess this will kind of, this is kind of towards if you're kind of newer to the business and you haven't been, I mean, I know at the gym that I used to work at, I had like a certain number of follow-ups I had to do a day, and I absolutely dreaded it because of what Matt just spoke about. But hopefully out of today's webinar, we also can get you to a point where you're not feeling like you're being annoying or forced to follow up with people. So, when you're following up, it's going to be, it will really just tell the client that you're letting them know that you're there, you're thinking about them, you're thinking about perhaps a conversation you had, you're wanting to maybe gain some information or reinforce information, right? There's going to be all types of different scenarios where you may be following up. Miguel and I here at Fitness Mentors, and Matt just kind of sparked this in my brain. I'm on the sales team here at Fitness Mentors. That's why I was hired. That's my thing. That's always been my thing. I love sales. Perhaps the hardest part of sales is following up, because you absolutely can sometimes feel redundant or annoying or like you're a bother. Especially if it's someone that you're like, dang, I talked to this person 2 weeks ago, like they don't want to hear from me again right now. Right. But a lot of times, as Matt just said, and this is just a fact. A lot of times when I follow up with people, they're like, oh my God, thank God you called me. I completely forgot. Right. Or, oh, I forgot about that conversation. Absolutely. How are you? Right. And then it sparks something. And it's not always salesy. It's not always me being like, hi, you said you wanted to buy. Are you ready? Right. It's a follow-up, right? So having a follow-up be as organic and kind of, letting it flow based off of previous conversation is a tactic I personally use. And I know Miguel and I in our sales meeting talk about that. We kind of are like, oh yeah, well, that person commented on their son wanting to get certified in a couple of months. So let's follow up with them, once the school year is done and it's a summer break. Right. And right when you do, and the mom answers, she's like, oh, I forgot we talked about that. Yeah, my son does want to get certified. Let me chat about that with him. Call me back in a week. Boom. Sometimes people will tell you to follow up with them, right? So it's letting your client know, it's letting your potential client know that you're persistent, you're dedicated to helping them reach their goals or helping them, fulfill their needs, whatever it may be. And I personally, putting myself into a consumer's shoes or into a potential client's shoes, I personally like people that follow up. I enjoy when someone takes the time to follow up with me. So thinking about that from a consumer's perspective, if a trainer were to follow up with me, I'd be like, if you're persistent and dedicated by following up with me, you're probably going to be pretty persistent and dedicated as my trainer, right? So I think there's power in that, and that's a good thing. As I said before, oh, sorry.
When I hop in, you're so right though too. In following up, different clients are gonna with different goals, because every single client, even if you have a specific niche that you're working with, and it seems like everyone seemingly has the same exact goal, it's a different goal, which means you're going to create a different follow-up. So even if you're like working off of a templated email or call sheet that like you work from, it's important that through your sales process, I'm sure with someone, you've engaged with them enough that you've listened enough to hear what they're telling you, not only their goals, but just who they are as a person, barriers that they have towards their goals. So in your follow-up, though it can feel redundant, and like Matt said, like they're probably not even thinking about you, but if you can just put in a little bit of effort to make it more personable to that person, it'll really it'll really translate and resonate with that person. So every client has a different goal, which means you're going to have a different follow-up with each person inherently. It can be the same thing. Like I said, you can work from a template, but make it unique to that individual client, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll tap into that. I believe it's on the next slide, but there's obviously certain, scenarios that pop up a lot in the personal training industry that we can tap into. And there's obviously different ways people react and all of that, but I completely agree. It's like when you're avoiding, the technical jargon and like being a robot, and you're just genuinely giving them some valuable, advice that you've maybe, or why don't we just hop to the next slide, Miguel?
Yeah, let's do it.
That I'm like gonna repeat everything. Yeah. Oh, maybe it wasn't the slide. I lied to y'all. Okay, it's down the road. But we'll get to that. But it's so true because, and I know I tap into this, but there are some people that if you meet them on a gym floor, for example, and you're like, oh yeah, let me send you an article later, right? And they're like, yeah, I'd love for you to send that article. Even if you just send them that article, that's a follow-up. That's you sending to their email address an article that they even said they were, expecting. And that is such a like valuable organic follow-up that isn't this redundant, like boring thing that they're like, oh gosh, here he is, right? Bothering me, right? So I completely agree, Miguel. It's like making it as personable and just kind of natural as possible. Definitely, there's such power in that.
And I think briefly, I want to say too, before we keep going forward, this is just a general arching thing I've learned. Chime in if you guys agree, coaches, but an email is one thing. Obviously you send an email whenever you can. Preferably I love following up with someone within at least like 24 to 48 hours, right? It's still fresh on their mind. They're still not thinking about you all the time, but the conversation you've had with them is still playing in their head, right? But in terms of a phone call, if you said to someone like, hey, yeah, like I'll give you a call, or they ask for a call, to create some sense of like accountability, ask for a specific time and day, like set an appointment, because the worst thing to do is when you're playing phone tag with someone, trying to follow up with them. So if Sam was like, hey, like I'd love to maybe, like I don't have time right now, I'd love to talk to you more. I'd say, great. What time works best for you? They say, I don't know, sometime Tuesday. I'm not just going to take sometime Tuesday. I'm going to take, awesome. What time Tuesday works for you? I'm free in the morning. Great. 9:30. Awesome. And this way they can expect that call. And specifically, we're trying to close a sale or work with a client. You're increasing your chances of closing that sale when it's something they're expecting and looking forward to. So that's just something I'd like to add in terms of like a phone call.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's absolutely certain days that prospects are willing to talk, or more willing to talk. So that's such a good point. We see that at Fitness Mentors all the time. So that's a great point. Yeah. Also, I just wanted to add in this fun fact when I was creating this presentation, y'all. I saw, and I really looked into this because I couldn't believe it. I saw that 78% of sales require 4 to 5 follow-ups before purchase. Isn't that crazy? Does that seem high to y'all? I don't know. Maybe. My mind was blown.
Wait, what was the stat?
It was like 78% of sales take on average 4 to 5 calls or 4 to 5 follow-ups to then sell.
I was actually looking at the stats, or I was looking up a stat. I don't know where they're getting these from, but some salessolution.com said 95% of all converted leads are reached by the 6th call attempt.
Okay. So even higher.
Which I think is very interesting. I don't know what the exact number is, but I think it's pretty clear that there's going to take more than 1 to 2 follow-ups. And it's just a common sales practice. And also I think something that I wanted to mention earlier was people are very busy. Just like, they don't hate you or anything like that. It's just like, honestly, I think you just have to realize that most people are busy, and optimizing your follow-up and how you see follow-ups around that. And honestly, any type of marketing strategy, honestly, or trying to convert leads, it's like people are very busy, and it's increasingly harder to fight for their attention. So yeah, I wouldn't I also feel bad about following up. it's a common sales thing, and you have to keep at it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
continue.
Well, also when you're working with someone specifically trying to reach like a fitness or health goal, why is someone going to want to work with you if they don't like trust you or you don't know anything about them, right? So I feel like it does make sense because this space is so saturated. There's so many people, and to the whole process of following up, you're building that trust as you keep mentioning. So I'm sure as you increasingly continue to follow up, your margin of closing that sale will only increase.
Mm,
Yeah. So
yep.
it is a wild stat, but I kind of agree with it. Yeah, it seems right.
Yeah. When I was like, when I read that, I was like, damn, that's crazy. All right, y'all. So you should be following up, right? Name of the game, follow up. Even if it is a situation or scenario where you're thinking, they seemed like they weren't a go, still follow up, right? You never know. Conversations that happen, especially when it comes to if they haven't closed with you yet, so potential clients, take note of what they're saying, right? Really listen. This is where all of those awesome sales tactics that we go over, this is where they really come into play, right? Are you listening? Are you taking note of what these people are telling you? What does their day-to-day look like? Do they work in an office all day? So that when you follow up with them, your follow-ups aren't the sales annoying, hi, it was nice meeting you. I mean, say that, but you know what I'm saying. Make it flow with that particular person's goals and aspirations, and mention those things that you talked about, right? Gauge these follow-ups based on the conversations that were had. Another time follow-ups can be super interesting, and especially this is towards the beginning, is if your lead was hesitant, right? There's a lot of objections that we talk about here at Fitness Mentors that people will give you. Oh, I need to talk to my wife. I work all day. I just don't have time to train right now. Oh, I don't know if I can financially swing this right now, right? So in these follow-ups, take those nuggets that they gave you and provide them with the solution before they can even object you again, right? Think of ways in your follow-up that you can mention some of these things that they were hesitant about and create a solution for them in your follow-up, right? Hey, did you chat with your wife? I actually figured out that if we only do 2 times a week instead of 3 times a week, we could probably make this work, right? Or, hey, I noticed that you said you were super busy with your job. I'm willing to come in an hour early to the gym if you want to just do that and we can get it done before work, right? In these follow-ups, they're going to be nice and organic if you're kind of gauging them based off of what the client kind of gave you already. This is something that Miguel and I see a lot. If people tell you to follow up with them, you need to take note and you need to follow up with them. Okay. A lot of our sales here at Fitness Mentors is that, hey, follow up with me next week. I'm at work, right? So follow up with them. Those to me are hot leads. That's a hot lead. If someone's saying that to you, hot lead. Hey, I'm super interested, but I'm, about to step into a meeting. Can you call me back at 5? Put them in your calendar at 5, right? These are things that seem so simple, but when things get busy for us as trainers, we kind of, let it get fuzzy. So remember how powerful these follow-ups are, and remember that you're not burdening them, especially if they're requesting it. But yeah, y'all, panel.
I will just briefly add, you're completely right. These are all different scenarios in which you're encouraged to follow up. But in terms of follow-up, obviously, there's many different ways you could do it. You could do it over the phone. You could do it via email. If someone walks through that gym door again 2 days later, you could do it in person and follow up and be like, hey, want to talk to you again, right? But I think there are some key things in following up. Definitely express your gratitude for their time, right? Be kind. Make the environment, you create the environment that is around you, right? So express your gratitude, encourage their goals, make sure that you show them that you were listening to them, right? And then not only are you going to encourage those goals, but make sure that you make it a point that you are the answer to them achieving that goal, right?
Yep.
You have to sell yourself. And that's just an easy way to like slip yourself in there. But then once again, encourage that communication of reminding them of their timeline. If they give you a specific timeline, you can say, I don't know, maybe they said November 13th was like their 40th birthday and they had a goal to reach something by their 40th birthday. Tell them, like, with November being only 4 months away, we can expect to lose X amount of pounds a month, which will put you right on target for your goal if we start today. These are all ways to like follow up, show them that you've been listening, you care, you're the answer to achieve their goal. And you have to make sure that you're encouraging that sale as well. Sometimes we indirectly ask for a sale, but in a follow-up, make sure that you are encouraging that, you know?
Absolutely. And I know, you know, this slide says, when should we follow up? I know Coach Alex has some stories like this, and I actually had a scenario the other day. Clients that you used to train, for our trainers viewing that, you know, have been in this for a while, and y'all might have clients that have, you know, moved or let you go, or you let them go, whatever. Well, if you let them go, I guess don't follow up. But if there are people that maybe you haven't trained in a while, or whatever the reason is, keep them on your roster to keep up with them, to keep following up with them. That's another great scenario where it's like, I should check in. And perhaps that's a way to think about it, right? Instead of it being this sales follow-up, maybe it's hey, John, how are you doing? Right? Have you been going to the gym? How's the kids? Right? That's a good way to check in with these clients. If you train them in the past, at one point, you were helping them reach their goals, right? Conquer their fears within the gym, whatever it was, right? So by checking in with them and kind of reminding them that you're there, perhaps that sparks something like, I should get back on it with Coach Sam. I should get back on the grind, right? And that's another sale. And you know what? If it's not, it's okay, right? You were a friendly trainer and you reached out, and that is nothing but good for the brand. That's great for the brand.
But also in terms of continued outreach, which is part of the follow-up process, I'm sure you two can attest to it. I'm sure there's been times where you are just following up with clients that you're still currently working with. Let's say they purchased like a 12-week plan or package with you, whatever the program is, right? Once you've hit like week 6, I'm sure you're thinking about wanting this person to repurchase,
Yeah.
right? So a follow-up, you're right, is not only just it's just checking in. It really is. So it could be as simple as working with your client after their succession, being like, hey, John, like, how are you doing? How do you feel? Do you feel like we're hitting your goals? If you did such a great job in your assessment, you can show them that, like, hey, at this 6-week mark, we've already surpassed some of your goals. So follow-up is not only an initial follow-up in terms of trying to obtain a new client, but keeping your existing ones as well, which is something I think we forget about.
Absolutely.
Until it's too late, you know, you get to like week 10 of 12 and you're like, oh crap, is this person enjoying their time with me, you know?
Right. So. Yeah. And to Sam's point about following up with old clients, this is actually what I did, because during the summer times, you know, sometimes you're not getting as many leads because there's not as many people who are trying to get in shape like in the middle of summer. And so this is where I went through everybody who, it's basically been at least like 3 to 6 months since they've worked with me. And I essentially just went to, okay, which clients did I enjoy working with the most? And then which clients got the best results, right? So I know they really enjoyed the process. And I started with them first. And I just went down the list, and I actually told them straight up. I was like, one, like in the first, so this was either via DM on Instagram or email. And so like in the first line, it was something personalized, like, yeah, asking about their dog, asking about their family, whatever. But then the next one was like, hey, you know, I'm not one to BS, so I'm being straight up. I'm having a coaching summer special. And instead of trying to get new clients in the door that don't know my coaching processes, I'm going back to all the clients that I really enjoyed working with, that I know can hit the ground running with this coaching special. So if that sounds like you, amazing, just let me know, and then I'll send you over the details. If not, that's totally cool too. Hope you're doing super well. right? Something
Right.
something along those lines. And I ended up closing quite a few sales. Some of them were like, yeah, I was definitely interested. I was thinking about hitting you up. I just haven't done it yet. And so yeah, it was something that it was a tactic that I hadn't tried for a long time. And so I was like, cool, I'm gonna go through my list, because it took like the whole day and went through and did like personal emails, personal messages, whatever it was. And it really, and also, so not only people who used to work with me, but then also people who maybe filled out a coaching application, but never actually ended up signing up with me. Either they had some objection for not working with me, or they ghosted me, or whatever it was. But basically, I just went back and followed up with as many as I could, with as many that made sense.
Right.
And then as far as something that I wish I would have done from the very beginning was keeping a updated CRM. So a client relations manager or something like that. Anyway, it's basically just I have a Google sheet with a ton of different leads on it. And if I would have done that since like the beginning of time, or the beginning of whenever I started doing all this, I would have hundreds, potentially thousands, right, of people to go back through, and to reach out to. And now I'm starting to, and I still fall short with it now, but I'm trying to keep it as present as possible. And so how I do that by keeping it like top of mind is, so like whenever I swipe over on my laptop, like on my Mac, basically there's my CRM is right there. So it's very easy. All I have to do is swipe over and then it's right there. I have like I have my client list, and then I have my CRM, and then I have like my to-do list. Like those are my three things that whenever I swipe over, it's always there front and center. And then if you have the Google Sheets app on your phone, I can also go into my phone and pull that up as well very quickly. And just like, if I'm talking to somebody on Instagram, they ask me about coaching, right? I put down their name. I put like when the last that I contacted them, I put their Instagram handle, and then I put any like notes. And then I also select either cold, warm, or hot lead. And then that way I kind of know, okay, this person was really interested, and then maybe they weren't, or they have to think about it, or whatever it is. But yeah, I think one of the best things that you can do, if you haven't already, is starting today with any type of lead. And that's anybody who's asked you questions on social media, anybody who's asked you questions in real life, right? Trying to get as many names down as possible, I think is only going to pay off more in the long run. So yeah, you can see how valuable that would be and how much that would compound as time went on, if you take it seriously.
You just made a great point too, because I think a lot of times, and this is like going a little bit off the follow-up train, it brings you to the question of like, what is a lead? I don't know if we've talked about that a lot here.
Right.
But what is a lead, y'all? Because I know personally, I have about, actually, no, I don't have that many friends. I have a lot of people that say, hey, Sam, can you watch this video of me squatting? For some reason, my right knee won't stop going in, right? Is that a lead? Yeah. I mean, perhaps, right? They just asked me a question about how their body's moving. So perhaps they would benefit from my training services. So they're a potential lead. So I think, Matt, you bring up a great kind of point / like you just sparked my brain. It's kind of like, if you want to be really organized and kind of help yourself out in the long run, create, I know, like, what is it? Salesforce, that app has like a CRM manager. Mm-hmm. And like, I know here at Fitness Mentors, we obviously use Phone Burner, but whatever it is, even if it's Google Sheets, right? If you start taking note of all of these leads and kind of notating like Matt does, like, okay, this person just asked me a question about their squat, but still, I mean, they perhaps could benefit from my services, or this person asked me how much my, 6-week package is, right? That's obviously a hot lead, right? So it does depend on what type of lead they are and where you want to put them on there, but tracking every single name down and potential client down will only help you in the long run. Even if you're starting your business right now and you have 3 leads, that's excellent, but your roster's going to grow, right? And you're not going to be able to keep up with every single person and every single need that they have and where they're at in their own journey, right? And where they're at in that. So that brings up a great point of what is a lead and what is a lead to you. And I think it's a great way to think about it is like a lead is someone who showed interest in the knowledge that I have and the knowledge.
I see it as like any type of opt-in that they do, even by asking a question, right? That's still like an opt-in, something that they have initiated with you. Or of course, like you can ask a question on your story or something, and then they can respond to that. But it's like, that is like, if I put a poll on my story, something about if they have trouble with X or Y, right? It's like that could potentially be a lead, right? It could be a cold lead, but then you can follow up with them, ask some questions, and then that could eventually develop into a warm or a hot lead. So yeah, I think any type of opt-in where they have participated in something that you've put out there, or they came to you on their own autonomy, it's like, I think that's definitely worth following up, because that means that they clearly they have something that they're wanting to fix with their diet and exercise, and they're coming to you, or they're at least paying attention to you,
right?
With the information that you have. So
they've shown something, right? Absolutely. Awesome. Let's move on. Yeah. All right. So I know Miguel already touched on this, which is great, and we can kind of get more into it. So obviously there's approaches and there's also ways to do this, right? I know a lot of people talk about following up through email. It's obviously, that's a great one. It's easy. Most people have email if you're living in 2023. It's a great way to do it. Phone calls are great. I think it depends on the setting and kind of where you're at in the process with that particular person. A lot of times when you first meet someone, you obviously don't have their number. At Fitness Mentors, we do a lot of phone calls, but that's also because that's something that they're giving us, they're inputting to us, is their phone number. But yeah, and Miguel, did you touched on another one that I loved that you said, and I'm blanking.
I definitely said that you should express is my mic on? Yes, sorry. I thought I was on mute. I definitely said you should express your gratitude, right? Encourage their goals. Make sure that you show them that you are the answer to their goals. Mm-hmm. If they have any like specific timeline, something that can create some sense of urgency, reference that, remind them of a timeline or a goal. Reference any personal information, proving that you care and you're a good listener. And that's where perhaps, as Matt just mentioned, creating a CRM, which is I never know what the acronym actually stands for. It's a customer relationship manager, right? Management.
Yeah.
But creating one of those is also a great place for you. As you said, even if it's just on Google Sheets, if you followed up with someone and they specifically gave you something personal about them, write it down. Because if you're talking to like 1,000 leads a month, I don't know, it could be anywhere from 100 people to 1,000 people, right? There's no way you're going to remember any of that stuff. So that's a great tool, but definitely reference personal information, proving that you care and that you're a good listener. And then I mentioned just like having some sort of closing statement, some sense of gratitude, encouraging a sale. And it doesn't have to be so much as like, hey, I have this sale going on. Like, I'd love for you to hop on it or work. Like, it can be simple as, I enjoyed getting to know you, speaking with you more. I look forward to hopefully working with you one day. It can be something as indirect as that. But I think those are 4, 5, 6 checkpoints that are so important that you should absolutely consider.
A lot of times people, or for the people that get a little bit nervous with people approaching them because they're like, oh God, it's a salesperson or anything like that, right? I think a lot of times that happens is because the consumer might not necessarily understand the quality of the product. So instead of choosing to learn more about it, they're kind of like, I'm not interested, right? So when I said a couple of slides back, another way to think about these follow-ups is you're contacting them to solve a problem or give them a solution to something that they kind of let you in on, right? For maybe that first or third or fifth conversation, whenever it was. So I recommend trying to do that. I know personally, I have had a lot of experiences where they tell me something that I'm like, wow, that's such an easy fix, but they just don't know it, right? Because they're not a personal trainer. And it's your job as a trainer, not only to help them understand, you know, how to deadlift a dumbbell, right? You also want to help them understand these other things that they don't understand way before the weights. And that is, oh, you work all day? Okay, well, let's train on a Saturday, right? Giving them solutions to these things that they just aren't even, they're not thinking, right? And it's not their fault that they're not thinking that. They don't know that that's a possibility. So in these follow-ups, come at them with that. Come at them with a solution. That is where you can really turn a no into a yes. And that goes for, I think, a lot of different things. We see that at Fitness Mentors when we're trying to sell someone a certification, right? And they're like, I can't learn information in 3 months. You have a year. They're like, oh, right. You're giving them knowledge that they just simply didn't know. And a lot of times that's what happens, right? Oh, I don't need personal training. I only want nutritional advice. I got you, right? I have that, whatever it is, literally whatever it is. I'm not a nutritionist. We got one down there. His name's Matt. So you can talk to him, but whatever the issue is, if you come at them with a solution, that's gonna really help this sales process. But yeah.
How often in like following up with someone, and I think this is why it takes those 4 to 5 follow-ups, whatever that stat was that you mentioned, is because maybe they opt in on your website to some like email or some free template you give away or something, right? You have no idea why they're on your site. Maybe you do, and you can track like activity on your site, right? But maybe you don't, and you just see that they purchased or downloaded this free PDF you have. You don't know whether their goal is this or whether their goal is that. Or I know Matt is a dietitian, right? Maybe people are on your site looking for just training, but they could obviously benefit from help from a dietitian, maybe some sort of meal plan. And in a follow-up, he mentions like, hey, I also am a dietitian. I'm a registered dietitian. I can help. Like that might be the opportunity in that follow-up that he just sold that person because they didn't know that. Yeah. So you're right. It's not only an opportunity to sell, but get to know someone and let them get to know you as well.
Absolutely. And yeah, adding on to that, a personal experience I had is, you know, during COVID, when I started training people, I was training people in person in Virginia, and then I moved. So obviously the clients that I had at that very moment knew I was going to be a virtual trainer for them, right? But then others that perhaps hadn't signed on with me yet, or they were referrals from my current clients, right? They reached out to me and they're like, hey, are you still a trainer in Virginia? My answer was not, ugh, I'm sorry, no. It was, hey, I do virtual training now, right? I had a solution already so that I didn't have to even say the word no, right? Obviously, I wasn't training in Virginia, but I had that solution ready. And they wouldn't have known that unless I had told them that, right? And with that, I followed up with so many other people that hadn't signed on with me in Virginia, but I wanted to let them know that I had this new service of virtual training. And I ended up catching some sales, right? So it's good to understand that, kind of helping them solve the problem before they think the problem is even really there.
I think you can also downsell your follow-ups in the sense that like, so whenever I reached out to them about the summer coaching special, if they say no, then I ask them if they know anybody else who may be interested in the coaching special. I know a lot of people do this I think some people do this like as the first thing that they say. They reach out and they were like, hey, I'm curious if you know anyone who would like this X, Y, and Z. But I always go with the direct approach. I don't, because I think most people are smarter than what some salespeople give them credit for, or you can just smell that out. And if somebody feels like you're trying to bait and switch them or something, then it's like, then you're really ruining some reputation and stuff. So I would more so, I typically ask about like them first, and then I'm like, cool. Well, do you know anybody else who might be interested in this? Then you can be like, if they sign up, I'll send you like $100 gift card to Amazon or $50 gift card, some type of incentive to actually give that information to you. So yeah, I think that's just another note for that.
Absolutely. Sorry, my big Great Dane hopped on the couch next to me, you guys. So that's why I was giggling. Awesome, guys. So we are already at the end. So to summarize, and I know we just kind of, went over kind of that the second point. Utilize a style of follow-up that best suits your strengths. I know I said this at the top of the webinar today, but I really do think over time you will see, how do you like to follow up with your clients? What is working for you? What works for your clients, right? It's going to differ. It's going to really depend. And I think it also really depends on whether you're working within a gym or not. When you're working within a gym, oftentimes your personal training manager will have kind of like a set way for you to do those follow-ups and a tracking system, but utilize what works for you. That's kind of what it is, and bring your uniqueness to the table. Make your follow-ups interesting and fun and creative to them, and make them personal. If you enjoy schedules, perhaps create a follow-up schedule. We kind of got into this with CRM. I think Matt had some great points, and I honestly am going to steal them after we get off this call for my own personal use. Thank you, Mr. Matt. And the last point, follow-ups are not a waste of time. And that is absolutely a fact. No argument there. Not only are they not a waste of time, but they are so crucial to your sales. They really are. They are always useful. They are needed. And it's definitely important, as Matt started off with today. You're not being annoying. The worst someone says is, don't call me again. And then you say, awesome, have a nice day. And that's that, right? It's Miguel and I get it often.
But I also think it's one of those things where you kind of just get better with it as you go.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Like stay confident throughout the process, because 9 times out of 10, a sale attempt is probably going to fail, and you're going to have to follow up several times.
Right.
So don't get discouraged. But if you're not like an expert, whatever your like best form of communication is, whether it be over the phone, through DMs, or through email, if you're not an expert like communicator in that way, start practicing. And the only way you practice is by doing it. So start following up with people. The best time to start was yesterday, right? So you need to build a foundation of being able to speak clearly, communicate effectively, be persuasive. And the only way you're going to learn that is by practicing. So follow up with every single client. And as I mentioned before, this is not just for new leads or hot leads. Even clients you're working with right now, upon closing a sale, you're confident of like, I just closed a sale. This is my new client. Follow up with them every session to ensure that they're satisfied with your training process, right? And it doesn't have to be formal, as we keep mentioning. It could be something as simple as like, how's it going? Just make it personable.
I think the biggest takeaway that we could possibly give from this because it's follow-ups, right? It's literally the answer is within the title of the presentation. It's like, just do it. Like if there's anything that you get from this hour-long presentation, it is to hopefully influence you to actually do this, because that is the main takeaway, is that actually doing this on a somewhat consistent basis will without a doubt make a difference in your business. And so however you need to set up that system within your business, like I would do that, whether it's setting reminders, whether it's buying some fancy CRM technology, whether it's using Google Sheets, whatever it is, this is right. There's only so many ways to get leads, right? And two of the biggest ways are going to be inbound and outbound. And so inbound is basically having clients come to you. So I make a post on Instagram, they see it, they sign up for coaching because of that, right? So the other way then would be outbound. So that would be you basically going on offense to find some of these leads and find these sales, right? And that's kind of the hard part, right? Is like you actually have to go out there. It's much better to just make a post or to try and do some fancy marketing technique so that then leads come to you. But this is more of the gritty kind of guerrilla marketing type things that people don't want to do because rejection sucks. Taking the time to go and send out these messages can suck. It's just not very exciting. But I think that it's such a huge part of sales that so many people are slipping up on, myself included. It's just that important. So I think however you can figure out like this, that's what this has definitely helped me. It's like, oh, I need to go back and look through my CRM. I need to add a few more people to it so that, 6 months from now, the list is much longer and I'm happy today knowing that I did it. And even if you need to take one day out of the week and like it's Friday, maybe it's like Friday afternoon and that's not, there's not many things that you feel like doing Friday afternoon. It's like, just use that as your message sending afternoon, right? That's your follow-up Friday. There you go. Just use that to reach out to people. Or if you're more of a daily systems type person, it's like talk about something that can be very easy to get your day started and to also get some conversations potentially going and have the potential for making a sale that day. It's like start each day with 5 follow-ups, right? And then you can even tally that down, right? Or make a check mark or something like Monday, I did it, right? And then over time, if you do that 5 days a week, it's going to be 25 potential follow-ups in a week. And now maybe you don't have that many, but also you can start creating those follow-ups by asking questions on your social media or reaching out to people in your gym, right? It's going on offense. It can be kind of annoying, but I think the ROI of it cannot be understated. And so, just do it.
As always, thanks for listening to the Certified Personal Trainer Podcast. You can learn more about Fitness Mentors at fitnessmentors.com. Be sure to share this podcast on social media. And remember, we are here to help you succeed.